Good morning.
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 All right, we have a few cases before us today for the DRC meeting. First case, M1 2023-26, Maple Acres Minor Subdivision. The petitioners here today. Asking again, anyone here representing Maple Acres Minor Subdivision, 1065 North, 400 East, Chesterton? Last call. Anyone here from Maple Acres Minor Subdivision? And I
responses was email received for the meeting agenda.
So we can defer this, can we? We can't do anything because they're not here.
Yeah, we'll continue it.
Let's continue if that pleasure of everybody. Very good. Case number M1 2023-26 will be continued to the next meeting. Case UV 2024-19, Martina Brown, 388 West, 100 North, Valparaiso, Union Township. Please come to the front. There should be a green light. If it is on, speak into the microphone, give your name, address, and what you're asking for.
Okay, my name is Martina Brown. I live at 388 West, 100 North, Valparaiso, Indiana.
Very good. And what are you here for today?
There is a living area in the pole barn that I have. I just purchased this house about 3.5 years ago now. And there's a little kitchen, and I would like to rent it out.
Okay. Yes. I guess we'll go around to staff.
Okay. Ma'am, from my perspective, what I'm interested in is the site ready for tenants now, or will you be doing any earthwork or adding any impervious surface to accommodate their needs?
No, it is ready now.
It's ready right now?
Yeah, are you talking about surface like outside or inside?
Right, there's no, you don't need to put in a driveway for these folks or an extent, it's just what's there right now is everything that would need, if there was no process of approval to go through, could I go rent that house and start living in it today?
Yes.
Okay. No other questions for me?
Dan?
Yeah, so I did a little searching through our records. How many bedrooms is the current house that you live in?
The current house has 3.
3? Okay. So the apartment would count as a 4th bedroom because it would have to be tied into your septic system, which
I believe it has a separate, it does have a separate septic system.
Okay, because I wasn't able to find any record of a septic system for, I don't have the record for your current septic system for the main house.
Yes.
I don't have any record of what's there in terms of anything for that garage or the apartment.
Okay.
So I don't know if it's sufficiently sized. I don't know if the previous owner put it in himself and didn't get a permit through us. It might have been put in before. I don't know.
I know that I know the person that owned the place prior, and even prior to them. So they probably were there 30 years, and so it was there even before them.
Okay, because the only record I was able to pull up for the property was in 1996. There was a new tank installed for the main residence, and it was a 1,250 gallon tank, which would be sufficient for a 4-bedroom, because when I looked back at the permit, they said they were doing a remodel of the house at the time, and it was either going to be 3 or 4 bedrooms. So at the time, they just spec'd it out for a 1,250 tank for a 4-bedroom in case that's what he ended up doing, is what I think.
Okay.
But I don't have any record of what comes after that tank for the house, and I don't have anything on record for the apartment.
I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that apartment, because I had it, what do you call when you have them come and pump it out? I believe they said it was 1,000-gallon tank.
Okay.
But you're not sure.
I'm not 100% sure, but I'm pretty sure, but I can double check on that when they,
So,
and it's in the front of the pole barn, but located by the street.
by the street, okay.
I guess not in front, it's not by this, like right next to the street, but it's in front of the pole barn, so it's on the street side.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know what's there, which is, is it sized appropriately for what, for that apartment or not? What I was kind of thinking along the lines was having you get an IOPA certified inspection on the existing septic system for that apartment and have it located, like how many laterals are there, that kind of thing, so I can get an idea of what's there and see if it's sufficiently sized for that apartment.
So,
Which that's something, that I think it would be useful to know, is just to make sure, because if it's not sized appropriately, or if it's not, if it doesn't have laterals and it's going somewhere it shouldn't, then you would have to put a system in for that apartment.
okay. So, who do I call and what would I need to do?
We have a list in the office. I can give you my number, and if you want to contact the health department, you want to talk to the environmental division, and I can give you that list. And I'd like to maybe come out to the property and just do an on-site, do a walkover, and just kind of see, what's there and everything as part of this.
Okay, and what was your name again?
My name is Dan.
Dan?
Yeah, last name is Boyd, B-O-Y-D.
Okay. And what number would I call?
219-707-8155.
Okay. Okay.
That's all I have.
Kevin?
Yeah, until I saw their file, I had a lot of information to go on, but a couple questions. Are you asking for a special use exception for the?
No, it's a use variance.
A use variance? Is this coming to Plan Commission in the?
No, this is BZA.
BZA, okay. Sounds right to me. The issue I'm seeing, I'm looking at the assessor's sheet. It has the single-family house built in 1902, the barn built in 1960, the detached garage in 1984, but they don't identify it as a residential unit on the assessment.
I don't think that they do.
Yeah, that's a problem you need to straighten out if you get the variance, among other things. And I had issues too with how everything's connected. Are you connected to the same well, to the same septic field?
Yeah.
And that's not really appropriate for a separate living unit,
Okay.
in my opinion anyway.
Well, she's indicating she has a second system for that apartment, and it services that apartment. The well,
It would
So-
surprise me if you did, but check into it. Get some expert to check into it.
Check into the.
the septic system.
Yeah, I know.
What we discussed.
Yeah, I definitely have a separate septic system because I have to dig it out in order for them to pump it. So,
You might have a separate settling tank.
But it might tie into your existing field, so that's what we
So you
kind of
can
want to figure out.
verify.
okay.
You definitely should have a separate settling tank.
Yeah.
Because God help us if it's correctly taken and it's not,
Right.
it's happened in the past where they connected directly
Okay.
to the field without going through a settling tank. In
Right.
many cases like this is very unusual to have this in this day and age.
Oh, okay.
Having a mother-in-law's house or a separate residence before we had aerial pictures and a lot of evidence that kind of caused more enforcement of these things.
Right. As far as the water is concerned, the water is connected to the house, and there is a line that is run out there, and it's softened water.
Yeah. I mean, you can hook multiple buildings to a well, or however you do it. It's just, you know, if it's got to be so far away from the
Yeah, 'cause-
field and
You
everything.
want to be aware of that, because if your power or something happens to the main source, the other place is going to be out too.
Right, right.
So is the issue here, if she's got separate septic systems, you're fine with that?
That's fine, and even if it was tied into her existing field, but I need to ensure that that field is appropriately sized
Certainly.
for the number of bedrooms, because that apartment's going to count as an extra bedroom, and so the system should be sized for a 4-bedroom, not a 3-bedroom.
Understood. And then as
If
far
it's
as the
tied in
water,
together.
they share the well with the water.
That's fine. I don't have anything against that. But if it has its own septic system, that's fine. But I just want to know what's there to make sure it's sufficiently sized. Or is it tied into her existing system? And if it is, then we need to determine if her existing system is sized appropriately.
Okay, does that all make sense to you?
So, and
I
that's
think
why I
the-
want her to have an inspection, that's why I want you to contact me.
Yeah, so-
and we'll go over all that.
Yeah, if I call and contact you, then you'll just get me all set up.
Yep.
Okay, that'll be good.
Anything else, Kevin?
Well, today, absolutely, you can't have 2 residential units on a single parcel.
Okay,
Would require more than just a variance, I believe. But, and I could be wrong, but staff could check into what the ordinances were back in 1984. If this is a reliable date, the other thing you need to verify is when that actually got built. The assessor
Yeah.
could have it wrong, but they have it built as 1984, and we did change our ordinances in 1980.
okay,
And I suspect that was the case in 1980, that you couldn't have 2 separate residential units on one parcel.
you could or you could not.
Could not.
Okay, I guess yeah, so here's what I guess my question is. If I need to take it down, I'll take it out and like get rid of it. But I just don't want to like, if you say I have to have another septic and I put in a septic, but then I don't get approved to rent. You know what I mean?
I won't make you put one in that if this is in order to get this approved and go through and everything like that, I want to ensure that septic is appropriately sized, or
Okay,
see where it's tied onto and stuff, because I don't have any record of it. And,
Right.
So.
and kind of what you're saying is I kind of need more than a use variance. Is that
No, it's still.
This board is just an informal review.
okay?
We'll go through, they're giving you advice.
Oh,
right
okay,
now, and
gotcha.
telling you what our rules are.
Okay,
The board that will hear the case will make the motion, whether you get approved or not,
okay,
to have a second residential on your property.
okay, gotcha.
So we're just here informally, and so you can get your ducks in a row when you do go in front of the full board.
This is just a,
Right.
So the huge issue is the septic. And
Okay.
that's what we're at.
Okay, thank you.
this is
Still
just a
wanna be in
preview.
compliance, and we need some idea, because the next guy that comes in, we need to be trying to be equal with everybody.
Well, and that's why I want to go through this. I mean, it's there, so I want to know if I could use it, and I want to be honest about it. So that's why I want to make sure that it's all okay.
That's why you're gonna go to the next step. They will make that ultimate decision.
Yeah, okay.
So today, what I'm hearing so far, the big thing is the septic. Make sure that it's adequate for your.
Okay,
Okay,
sounds good.
all right. Kevin, anything else? Martin?
No, it sounds like using the same driveway, so I have nothing from the right of way and
Yeah.
highway engineering perspective.
Kelly, anything?
Yeah, that kind of leads to my question is the addressing and how this individual unit will be basically acknowledged for like 911 or fire. I mean, do you have a separate address for it? Do you have
I don't. It's,
do you have a separate meter, like a electric meter for it?
there is a separate meter for it.
Is it all, are both electric bills being sent to the same address? I think that's my maybe
Yes,
up to.
yes. Both electric bills are being sent to the same.
Yeah, I mean, that would be, that would be something that I would speak to.
Okay,
Addressing, just so that if anything were to happen, they can get to the appropriate place in a time efficient manner.
Now, the addressing is done by our office, so it's not you to create an address, but that needs to be looked into and rectified.
And which office would I go to for that?
Development and stormwater.
The development, okay,
Board.
okay.
The only other thing I would add is if the board made it time conditional, like so many years, after which, and this is very successful, and you wanna maintain that rental, they could look at rezoning and bring it into compliance,
Okay,
long-term compliance.
okay.
Christie, you have anything to add? Monica? Okay, so, as I said, this is just advice to you.
Okay,
Get your ducks in a row, so when you present to the Board of Zoning Appeals
okay,
variance, you pretty much addressed all the staff's concerns. They may have additional questions when you appear, just to forewarn you.
so first thing would be to contact Dan. Let's do that
Probably the
first.
biggest hurdle you gotta get over, yes.
Okay,
I
all
think
right.
The other stuff can all be worked out, but
okay,
septic is the biggest issue here,
okay,
okay?
sounds good.
All
It'll
right,
be
All
up
right.
to the BCA.
Pardon me?
It'll be up to the BCA. We're just checking compliance.
Okay, perfect.
Monica, when's the next BZA and when do things have to be submitted by?
She has already submitted, she's on our next agenda for this month.
No,
July.
July.
What date is that?
I
17th.
think it's the 17th.
BZA on July 17th?
We're
We'll look,
close to 19th, that's why we're not having a meeting on that.
well, good luck to you. We hope to see you on the 17th.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, the next case is APL 2024-4, David and Jennifer Leeds, represented by Adam Gordon. This is an informal review, appealing decision of BZA Appeals Hearing Officer, asking the county for the development standards variances to allow for a 42-foot by 48-foot pole barn to vary from the following. Allow the increase of height from the maximum allowed of 20-foot to 24-foot 3 inches to exceed the maximum floor area allowed by 490 square feet, and to allow the pole barn to be placed in the front yard. So I see we have petitioner and representative. Give your names, addresses, and purpose of being here.
Sure. Good morning, everybody. So Attorney Adam Swarden, Swarden Law, PC 337 West 806 North, Valparaiso, Indiana 46385, here on behalf of the petitioners, David and Jennifer Leeds. They are both present. David's up here with me. And also present, I do have a representative from the building construction company that submitted the development plans for this accessory structure. It's Milmar out of LaPorte. It's a little bit different because I know we had an unfavorable decision from Rick Burns from the BZA at last month's meeting, and there's currently an appeal going before the full BZA in July. It was staff's recommendation that we come in here and kind of show you what the proposal was, some of the unique characteristics of this property, and just for the record, David and his wife were here in April, not represented, kind of presented everything. Rick Burns had continued it to May. They had retained my office, so we kind of came in and clarified what we understood the concerns were out of that April meeting, which I just happened to be here for another client. And the comments were concerning the height of the structure at the proposed 24 feet 3 inches versus 20. Not necessarily the 490 additional square feet, but more importantly, the placement in the front yard for this site. I know Monica's jumping around on the GIS. Monica, are you able to let me put my PowerPoint up now that we've got the connection over here?
Sure.
All right. So I think the photographs will help significantly for going through these three items. While we're working on that, I know David had gone out to the site before the May meeting to confirm the concern over drainage. Thank you, Monica. So this is the property here, and it's comprised of two parcels. So this is off of Indian Boundary Road. The home is joined, by the way. Yeah, they have been joined, but it's platted as two separate parcels. But you'll notice that the house is all the way on the back part of the site, which is somewhat unique because most of these other properties, the homes are either located midpoint or closer to the front up by Indian Boundary Road. And what I'll do here is also explain that this is the area where we have the lake to the east. And so there's actually a drainage area and a depression in the front part of this parcel that the driveway goes through that we'll look at in a minute. But from the roadway, this is the entrance to the site. I mean, this is what you see when you walk by or you drive by. And then this is the driveway immediately to the west, so this is the neighboring property looking into the site. You can just make out that there's a driveway here that continues on back to a turnaround in front of their home. And so the approximate location of where the building was proposed in the front yard is at a high point here before they get into the drainage area. So now what we're doing is looking at this turnaround in front of their home. This is that high point site. You can actually see the elevational change here in the photograph. They've dealt with some drainage issues here from flow off the driveway and around the house from the backyard into the creek shed area. And so what we did here is I wanted to show from the stake mark here from their original application, this is their home. This is the building site looking back. This is the only property owner that would have line of sight of this building from their residence. And that's the one, if we go back to the aerial, that's this home right here. I actually do have a handwritten letter from that owner supportive of this application being in the front yard as being the only person affected, because everything else is either screened by woods or technically is the backyard of all these other surrounding properties. So basically their front yard, with the exception of this neighbor, is everybody else's backyard. When we turn to the left from that same point where this location's at, the neighbor to the east, they actually have two accessory structures, one right here and one right here, and then all this vegetation. They came out and remonstrated against this as being inappropriate for what they called a pole barn, but this is actually going to be a post-frame construction garage building at this location, which I kind of find ironic because we've got two accessory structures right next door in their backyard. So visually, I don't see how that's an impact to them. But that was the concern. So what the BZA had indicated to us last month was they want this in the backyard. So these are the photographs of the existing conditions. The backyard is pretty much flat, but it is somewhat depressed. There are drainage issues. There are standing water issues. You can see the evidence of that here. I know David made the same observation when he went out just before they were in last month. These are basically constantly wet areas in the forested area that is the small portion of their backyard. It's also an area where deer and things like to hide out. It's also all the folks to the south's backyard in this subdivision, and even folks to the east. And that's this area here that we were just talking about that is constantly wet. The BZA would like to see this building in the backyard, but what that's really going to require is this is all going to get clear cut. They're going to have to bring the grade up, change the drainage out there to get this building out of the wet area, and it's going to alter how the drainage currently works, which my folks have improved going up into this drainage area. Versus, as David's comment stated, this location makes sense as long as they maintain the drainage that they've already got in here so that we're not impacting potentially flooding of neighboring property owners' basements. My folks actually have spent several $1,000s dealing $20,000 dealing with the drainage issues in their own basement. So the last thing they want to do is, and they've gotten quotes right now, they're up to $43,000, and that doesn't include what work's going to have to get done to the driveway, just to come back in here to put in an accessory garage that they're going to use for personal use. So before we're even talking about building costs, we're going to be easily $50,000, $60,000. And again, if I'm one of these neighboring owners, I wouldn't want this changed, because right now they're not really flooding out. But if I go put in a building here and I'm one of these neighbors, I'm going to be concerned about my yard flooding. And right now it works because of the improvements that they've done over the years, which I think was kind of alluded to in David's comments back to staff. The other thing too, for the record, even though the first bullet point in today's case identifies 24 feet 3 inches. We did come in last month, and I have the builder here. They did agree to bring it down to 22 feet. They can make it work for the door size that they need for the vehicles and things that they're planning on storing in there. So we did make some concessions there. I do know that the 490 square feet was just asked about why do you need it so large, and that's based on the amount of things that they currently do not have at this site that are being stored at another family member's site elsewhere, and they would like to have that all in. Again, just for context, we talk about their water issues that they've addressed. This is photographic evidence of the money that they've spent to resolve this issue in their own home that they don't want to have come back in. Again, if the placement, ultimately gets approved and looked at for this location, they can maintain that drainage that they've already put in to help with the issues around their current home and the drainage that currently happens from the neighboring property owners. And this is the area that they have significantly cleaned up that used to have blockages. This is actually from their driveway. So when you're looking into the site from Indian Boundary Road, you're looking through all this vegetation area. There were some comments from some folks that live up the street that they don't want to walk down the street and see this accessory structure, but I couldn't see it from the street. I walked it. I took the photographs, and I drive through there all the time. I don't know how you can barely even see that there's a house back there, let alone where this building's going to go. So they've done a lot of work here. There's been a lot of, I've got some personal knowledge of driving this area about the reduced flooding that now happens into that pond area. But, some of the other comments were, well, it still floods, and it does, and that's because there's drainage west and east of them that if you go out there right now is not being maintained, but that's not on their property. They'd be trespassing if they were going on. I wish everybody would do what they did here with cleaning out the drainage area, then all this would flow through there and Indian Boundary Road wouldn't be flooding. So anyway, that's what was proposed. I guess we'll take any comments or feedback that you have before we go up on appeal before the BZA next month.
David?
Sure. So I didn't write down the date, but I did visit this, as was alluded to, I did visit the site, and I was asked to review it from the perspective of, would this impact negatively any neighbors or flow in the area? In my role, I don't really get into the, hey, these things need to be in the front yard or the backyard or, view sheds or what people can see or heartburn over that. I review this from the perspective of what would I want to do, and is there a way to make this work from a drainage perspective or adverse impacts to neighboring properties? And my opinion was that if I were this homeowner, then the proposed location is what I would choose to do, if allowed to do so. And I believe that there's a way that this could be done. I believe that there's a way that this could be done without negatively impacting the drainage conditions of any neighboring properties or the overall drainage of the area. I believe there's a way to make this happen. I don't think it'd be terribly complicated to make that work. But again, in my role, all those aesthetic qualities, that's not really something I get into, but I do concur with the statements that were made that if this were my property, that's where I would want, if I needed an accessory structure, that's where I'd want it to go.
Well, I appreciate your comments on that because that's what we're thinking too. And the last thing that we want to do is negatively impact other people's homes or our own. And if we're forced to put it in the back, I'm very afraid that that's what's going to happen. And then, in 6 months, you're going to have those neighbors up here complaining because their basements are now flooding because of what we were forced to do. And it's the last thing I want to do.
Sure.
If we put it where we're talking about, then we can easily dump that water right into the existing drainage and have no issues.
I agree with that, and I also think that the other thing that's if this were being compared to other instances where folks wanted to do this, it looked like a pretty dense visual shield as far as I'm concerned. If it went there, I don't see this being go back to this photo. I don't see this being a terrible aesthetic blemish on the area that this would be put here. I think this picture here kind of speaks for itself. But from the role that I review things in the county, from stormwater engineering perspective and whatnot, I concur with the statements that were made. And that now with that said, you don't just whip this thing up. There's a grading plan that gets put in place. There's things that could be done. There's things that can be done to accessory structures to further mitigate any type of increased runoff. It's also very close to, you know, the area where the flow is ultimately going. So in my opinion, there's a lot of cost-effective ways that could be added to this design. If I saw a full design, there's a way that this could be done where I don't think we'd be increasing any runoff.
Yeah. I think kind of to that point, David, one of the things that we had talked about, and I can't remember if he did it at the first meeting or I handled it at the last meeting, but obviously with this location, as you know, it's not expensive to put in French drainage, perimeter drain, and then kind of tie a daylight outflow into this area so that we know that's where it's going.
Right.
Because the last thing they want is for water to be going this direction because it's going right back into the basin.
Right.
So.
Yep.
Anything else, David?
No, sir.
Dan?
So my first question is this on septic or is this on sewer or conservancy? Because on the one application that was in the packet, it says Indian Boundary Conservancy, and then on the Plan Commission application, it says septic. So that's my first question.
Well, they are in the conservancy area.
But have they tied on is the question.
Yeah,
Our home is tied into that. There will be no plumbing in this building.
Okay, so it is on the conservancy.
It is on the conservancy,
Okay.
but there will be no plumbing in this building, no bathroom, no water, no nothing.
Because one application said one thing, the other one said the other, so I wanted to clarify that.
Yeah, this is just for storage. There will be no bath.
Okay, because if there was a septic system there, you would be required to have this building be 10 feet away,
Absolutely.
minimum away from it and everything. And I noticed from the picture for the rear yard, there was that rock structure there, which that's
Our
covering
well.
wellhead, correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay. So, yeah, that was my question. I mean, if it's on the conservancy, I don't really have any other comments.
Thanks, Dan. Kevin?
Yeah, along the same comments. And I'll start with the drainage out there along Indian Boundary Line Road. It's been a bane of the residents for a long time. There's only 20-foot easement for the county to work in. The ditch is probably 50, 60 feet up away from the road. We don't have right of entry as a county. But I think there's a belief that the county is supposed to take care of all that drainage, but without full cooperation and dedicated easements, permanent easements, we don't have the ability to go in there and remove stuff. So I really suggest that the neighborhood get together if they really want to solve a lot of this drainage and work with one another. And I think there's an outlet back to the property to the east, which is, I believe, Tom Mapp. Back in 2012, I talked to him several times, but you just need cooperation out there. If the intent is for us as a county, you need to come in front of the Stormwater Management Board and get the cooperation of the neighbors to do that. As David alluded to, if it were my property, I'd be putting in subsurface drainage. You spent a lot on your foundation from what I hear. Did they put a subsurface drain totally around the perimeter of the house? You did, good.
There's one outside and inside now.
Good, and there should be. Where is the water delivered to? Is it to that swale along the driveway?
That rocky area there, it's pumped out. The sump pumps will pump everything out down to there, and it all goes right down to the creek.
Yeah, my suggestion is when you do the whole building, if you do the whole building, that you also have perimeter drain around that, and then take a tile along your east side that would also protect everybody. You know, you're putting the water over by the driveway, and arguably it's still kind of floating around out there.
Yeah.
The more you can get to the ditch directly, the better off you would be, in my opinion.
Well, my plan was kind of to run the gutters from the building north into a single drain tile buried underground and go right down to that creek. So I would direct all the water right there.
And then if, my other thought is if you go along the east side, and I suggested this probably 15 years ago, 10 years ago, it was about 2012, I think, was to run a swale with over the top of a drain sale of property.
Along my property?
Yeah, here, because they kind of followed my suggestion years ago to build swales along the driveway. That kept the driveway from having water sitting on top of it.
Right.
So that was helpful. It sounds like they also used it for the outlet along the drive.
Correct.
But I'm not convinced that's been totally effective, because the pictures you show of the ponding and the lot, you just need more catchments to remove that water. The water's coming from everywhere, as David alluded to, until you have some way to direct it and control it. It doesn't quite sound to me like it's gotten there. The issue typically with Board of Zoning Appeal is, what is your hardship? Now, I just want you to think about that, because that's what they typically focus on, is what is the hardship. And, you know, I could see where, yeah, the garage could be built back there. I understand your arguments, but, you know, that's, I don't know what to suggest beyond that. That you have that, and I'm glad to hear you don't have septic, because that was one of the things I was wondering, where the septic field's at, because you can't put a building on top of septic.
Right.
Anything else?
No.
Okay, Martin, you have anything to add?
You mentioned some driveway changes. Can you tell me more about that? Would it be widening or changing the surface?
The only thing we would do is we would put a small branch in the driveway to come right up to that building.
Okay, so nothing at the roadway.
Nothing at the road.
Okay. So yeah, from my perspective, there's not much as far as what they might ask about. Do you have a picture of this during winter time from the roadway?
We do.
Okay, and is this still?
We can show you that too. I actually have it. I don't know if you have that, Adam, or not, but
I do. I mean, we can add that in, but yeah, that's the picture there.
this is that's the road towards the house in the winter time.
Okay.
If you flip it over, there's one flipping the other way.
Okay.
You still can't even see it without the leaves on the trees.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Anybody else want to see that?
Yes. Kelly, you have something to add?
I was just going to add that Mr. Hudson did share with me that there was a previous complaint about flooding out there that had been investigated by our office. So his recommendation, or his comment, was just that it's super important that you manage the surface water that you're going to create and modify in your accessory structure build. My comments would be, I concur with what Kevin was saying. In terms of the hardship, it's great that you reduce it down to 22 feet for the building. I also agree that the front yard is probably the best place for this. So, there's a hardship that you can't really put it behind the house. But in terms of the maximum floor area exceedance of 490 square feet, that's just a desire that you have. So in terms of the hardship, that one was a little difficult for me to see. That's just my comment for you to address when you go before the board.
Okay.
And then lastly, I would just say that when you do come in to get your application, if this goes forward, for your accessory structure, that we would submit you for not an additional, but we would look at it from the stormwater component, just to ensure that that water, that surface water, is dealt with appropriately. That would be part of your application.
Kevin, you said they lowered it to 22 feet?
I think they said that in the
You
beginning.
agree to?
Yeah,
That's a positive, because it's still over 22 feet, or 20 feet for this zoning, which is a positive, because here again, we've got to try to treat everybody the same. And I'll tell you, historically, we really haven't been advocates of having outbuildings in front of the principal residence. I hear your arguments and everything, and that's for BZA to decide, but just so you're aware that it's not typical that we have pole buildings or post-frame construction in front of the house, or any outbuilding for that matter.
And believe me, I'd rather have it in the backyard. If it was feasible on this property to put it backyard and it wouldn't cause all the problems and cost me all the extra money, I would rather have it in the backyard. It's just,
Give you-
in this property, it's not a good place to put it.
I get it, but it's up for the BZA to decide, so.
Anything else, Kelly?
No, that's all I have. Thank you.
Christie? Monica? Okay. So, the recommendations, you may have to make your full case in front of the Board of Zoning Appeals at, I assume, the July 17th meeting, they're slated?
Just one question. Does the BZA then, as we're doing this review comment, do they get kind of your guys' bullet points or meeting minutes to know that we were here? Okay. Yeah, because I think it kind of helps give them some context, you know, especially on your comments about the location making sense. So if really all we're talking about then is height, square footage, it kind of, yeah, well, yeah, location.
And solution for drainage.
Yeah.
I think if you look at the BZA hearing officer meeting minutes, which I did, I think the two biggest concerns were the drainage, and some people just didn't like it in the front yard because of the view shed that they got. So what Kelly brought up about the hardship, I mean, I understand the backyard's flooded, but you know, that's a case you're gonna have to make in front of the BZA to show them why that's such a hardship.
Yeah. And I will make sure too, since we've got the note from the neighbor who can actually see it from the front yard, we get that over to you because we've only got the original. So I'll get that too. So I didn't want to read it in, but it's self-explanatory.
Very well. All right, we wish you luck on this.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thanks for coming. Next case, VOE 2024-5, Robert and Layla Reardon. Informal review, requesting you vacate a 5-foot easement between the two parcels of land and combine them into one buildable lot. Good morning.
Hi, good morning.
And state your name, address, and
Leela Reardon at 12267 West 107th Place, St. John, Indiana, 46373.
And Robert Reardon? Of the same?
same address?
Yes, sir.
I assume so.
Okay, thank you.
So what is it you would like to do today?
We bought 2 lots. We want to combine it to put one ranch. We've looked in the subdivision, different lots, and what we plan to build, we always need 2 lots. So that's the reason for combining the 2 to put the size ranch and with the side drive, side loading garage, a 3 to a 4 car garage. Takes up a lot of space.
And then there's an easement that went down the shared property line.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess every lot does that, which I didn't know that's how that works there. So yeah, I guess we have to combine it, but there's still room on each side of the lot if someone needs to come down to get to the back.
Well, we'll start with comments from staff.
Okay.
David?
Which lots are we talking about here?
Lot 360 and 361.
Yeah.
360 and 361.
And falling waters, David.
Correct.
Okay. So 360 and 361, let's see. Would the improvements that you're doing be more than what these were? I'll put my question this way: with these 2 lots were designed to each accommodate. Is what you're building greater than twice what one of them would have had?
Yes.
So it is increasing the amount of impervious cover that would have been there if this were 2 separate lots with 2 separate homes with 2 separate driveways and.
Well, we wouldn't be able to, what we're planning on building, we wouldn't be able to build on one lot.
Yes, but I'm saying if let's say that you built on both lots,
Mm-hmm.
what the lots were designed to have, is what you're doing more than twice what one of them would have been. So like from the overall perspective.
No, because if it's 2,400 square feet, we're not building like 4,800 square feet. It's just that we have a 2-story home now, and with the ranch stretching it out and putting the garage next to it, the driveway, I think that one lot in the back is like 85 feet wide. We have a 2-story now with a garage on the side. Our lot is 110 to make that work. So it's like this is 25 feet narrower. So if we do a ranch, we're seeing there's like no possible way we can do that type of house there, unless we have to change it. But at the time, we didn't know when we bought the 2 lots that how it worked, and now we're starting to find out that you got to go to a system, which I understand.
Okay. Have you been talking to anybody about like a particular design beyond, like a site design beyond just like this is the house we want and the garage we want? Like, have you talked to any like design professional who's been able to say? I mean, I can't imagine why they wouldn't, but like they can still.
Yes.
Like from my perspective, again, what I review, if there's a way that if we're not increasing the total impervious cover that that both of those combined would have seen, and there's a way to globally make the drainage work, then those would be my only. Again, this is an advisory type setting, but from my perspective, that's what I would need to hear. You know, again, from the global perspective, you haven't changed anything. There's still a way to make everything flow where it was designed to go, and therefore just that center line easement that's going through those two in tandem. Those are my only questions.
Okay.
Dan?
Falling Waters does not have septic, so I don't really have any comments.
Look at you. My comment was dealing with all the different utilities. You should get sign-offs from the utilities and also the Conservancy District itself, because they're dealing with water and sewer. But you need electric, cable TV, fiber, you know, the telephone, gas, anything, anybody that might be a part of the easement. But I suggest you get sign-offs from them. Does this come back to Plan Commission?
Plan Commission.
Then, as David suggested, it might be a good idea to have kind of the a layout of the house on the lot so we can see where the house and driveway is, and that satisfy the question, because we really don't have that in front of us right now.
Gotcha.
And I'm sure that's why David asked that question, because sometimes when we're looking at these, depending on what they accept, it could be a duplex with 2 drives and still be bigger than the
thing with
minimal
double.
house or maximum house coverage. And that way staff can look at acreage, give you recommendations for building lines, but then also, of course, you're going to go through the Falling Waters Property Owners Association.
Yeah, it's the next,
Architectural
this month, yeah.
But that's, to me, that's the bigger issue. And of course, it's practical because the building line applies, the side yard building line. You can't have that in the middle of your house. You're going to have to
We had
eliminate that side yard building line as well.
we had everything staked out and everything's in the front.
Pardon?
Everything's
All the utilities.
all the utilities are in the front of the house, in the very front.
But they still have the ability, if they needed, to use that. Let's say they go to the property to the east, and they might be looking. Typically, we've got roadway right-of-ways and stuff like that. But to eliminate that as forever is pretty much to get them to sign.
Gotcha.
Who do I go to get that signed off?
The various utilities, you can see examples. Typically, there's sign-off sheets for utilities.
Electrical.
With preliminary
Electrical.
plans and stuff through our.
Gas company.
They're
and
not,
stuff.
but it's not
Well,
IPSCO.
whoever the gas company is and stuff there, an electric company. What
Okay.
it is, you gotta notify them.
We can talk about this later.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, and with this being just advisory, I would also, if utilities is good, but also have you, I'm assuming you probably already have, but have you engaged with any type of neighborhood association, HOA, as to whether or not something like this would be like okay in their world and what they look at?
So I had to send out certified letters, and I did that, and I haven't received anything back yet. But
Okay.
I'm notifying
There's a
everyone.
meeting.
And again, that wouldn't be a county thing, that's just it's
Yeah.
human to human.
With Falling Waters, is the homeowners association good with you guys combining lots?
Yes, I've talked to a few different people, and no one's complained about
Do
it.
you have
The path.
you have covenants for this sub?
Yeah,
But
they,
there's a difference though between people complaining ahead of time versus,
That it-
hey, I bought this house and now my neighbor has a 2 times bigger house than me. And again, this is the world of HOA, which is
Yeah.
the exact opposite of my world.
It's definitely.
Right. So just that's just my advice to you. Just make sure that before you get too far down the trail that, you know, some neighborhood association isn't going to shoot this down and go, hey, we don't want some mega mansion in our neighborhood or.
Yeah, because I think the 25th or 26th,
I
we got a
have it
meeting
written
with the HOA.
Okay.
And see where they stand with
And to
it.
be clear, we're not the enforcers of HOA covenants and restrictions.
Right.
We enforce our ordinances or state statute.
right,
So, but we still want to veil this to the Property Owners Association because they still, and the Conservancy District has a lot of control out here. So you're
Okay.
part of a gated community, so to speak. I think it's still gated.
Yeah,
Yeah.
somewhat, I guess, yeah. You can drive through there during the day because they're doing all the building and stuff and take it back. It's nice. We like the idea the way it was set up but like I said, some of the lots were narrow and somebody owned all three of those lots, the one next to it too, and then he wanted to sell them, so that's how we found them and bought them. He was gonna build on it at one time. I think he actually bought them 5 years ago, it looked like, because he got them so cheap, and then he was selling them. So that's the whole thing, but
So do you see anything that would hinder us from combining the two?
especially
At
if
this
you're not building a
point-
giant house, it's
I think
just long,
today we're just giving you suggestions for you to look at so you can be
Right.
hopefully successful at that.
And so far, it's just get a hold of the utilities and make sure that there's nothing.
And the covenants and whatever the HOA.
HOA will be the big stopper, yeah.
Okay.
I wasn't sure how they felt about it too, because then you're only getting one fee then for, because we don't wanna have to pay twice.
I mean, that's what I'm hearing so far. We're not done yet. But
Yeah.
And I emphasize, we're not just in the case where you've got the utilities marked, there are none there, but that's not the point. The point is there's an easement or a right to use it right through the middle of your house, and you don't want that left in there.
Right.
That's what I got found,
Problems in the future. And also, it goes back to the building setback, because the community flowing waters, you have building setback requirements from those sidelines as well, and rear, and you'll be eliminating the side building abiding.
Right.
Martin?
From the public highway perspective, no, there's no public right-of-way that we maintain in this section, privately maintained roads. For the utilities, when you call 811, they would be listed on that as well. So
okay.
when those were called in, all those companies are there that you can contact.
Kelly?
Yeah, I was just going to add that I think I did talk to your builder on that, and they did do the April one. So my recommendation, since that's what you're seeking, is make sure you have something, maybe emails or something in writing that you can present to the board. That
Okay.
you did have that email or that easement check, and there was nothing with it.
Okay.
I believe we were just trying to determine. Do you know? Is it a utility easement or a drainage easement or both?
The document file suggests both.
Training and,
So I would probably also seek comment in writing from our stormwater engineer that there's nothing in there for any kind of stormwater infrastructure for the subdivision. Provide that to me.
And who's the one who's with the stormwater?
But
Chelsea?
in this case,
David, somebody.
it'd be a
Make
good
sure
idea.
there's nothing in there.
Be a good idea to get that, but you're not part of our stormwater fee ordinance, I don't believe, because you're a conservancy district, where and you weren't a regulated drain subdivision. Typically, we wouldn't have that, but that's one more step. That'd be a good idea to have.
Come to our office on the 3rd floor. It's Development and Stormwater Planning,
Room 311.
311.
Okay, thank you.
Chop shop.
No, wait. Okay. Anything else, Kelly? Christy? Monica? Okay. So, David, I just had one question to you. You know, I was thinking the same thing Kelly was. It doesn't show it on the plat, but it shows it on some narrative in here that is both a stormwater and a utility easement. We addressed utilities, we talked about the stormwater, but probably when they do their site plan for the house and that, they're gonna have to make up that area to convey the water
Correct.
east-west, right?
So typically, if these were individual lots, you would have those side yard easements so that people can't interfere with those. And we're seeing that in the neighborhood I live in right now. There's some folks that did some things in those side yards that affected the drains and impacted neighbors and whatnot. Now, in your case, the reason I'm so comfortable with this is because this is not going to be what it looks like now. Your house will be in the middle. Presumably, it's going to be the high ground. It's going to be flowing, off to the side. So yeah, we would still look at the overall drainage picture once we got it designed in the office. But I mean, it's not going to be a really difficult thing for a site professional to put together a way to make that work. And then again, that easement that's there right now would become a moot point because it would go from being a low point locally to being a high point.
Yeah.
So,
Okay, so, go ahead, Kelly.
I have one more comment. I wanted to say that, they have already gone to the assessor and combined the lots, so they've made that official. And it's a great idea. We don't have any issues with that in terms of, the planning department. It'll make a great building site, so we're actually all for it. We just are trying to ensure there's nothing in that easement before you vacate it.
Okay, perfect, thank you.
So,
and I would do that with the site. Well, again, once we have a plan, we would do, we visit the site, we could photograph that area and confirm that there's nothing globally there for the neighborhood.
good points. Thank you both. It's not on an agenda docket yet for a plan commission, is it?
The 24th,
And that is when?
the
June?
June 24th at 5:30.
Very good.
Yeah.
No calendar here.
So, little homework to do before your meeting on the 24th. We wish you luck.
Okay, thank you.
Nice project.
Thank you.
Good luck.
All right, thank you.
Okay, board members. The first case on the docket did arrive a little late, so we will hear them at the end. Case number MI 2023-26, Maple Acres Minor Subdivision, 165 North, 400 East, Chesterton, Indiana. Primary plat approval for the proposed four-lot subdivision, and it's zoned RR, rural residential. State name, address, and purpose of it.
Good morning. My name is Alonzo Garcia with Great Lakes Engineering, 6084 Loot Road, Portage, Indiana. So I'll be presenting Maple Acres. Maple Acres is a four-lot minor subdivision located on County Road 400 East. The existing zoning, as previously stated, is rural residential, and it's approximately 17 acres in size. Multiple wetlands are delineated on the primary plan, can be seen, as well as a large drainage easement located on the northeast of the parcel. The existing conditions are entirely wooded, and the existing drainage exits the site through two main passageways. One is the north of the parcel into a subdivision, as well as into that stated northeast drainage easement, as well as into a 60-inch culvert west of the property that flows under County Road 400 East. A gravel drive will be constructed, or is proposed, to give access to these four lots. These four lots will all be on septic. The idea of this subdivision is to keep the aesthetic of the wooded lots, maintain the natural conditions as much as possible. That's it.
Okay. And you realize you'll be going, nothing.
Public hearing or planning commission?
No, I was thinking something else. David?
Yes, so this subdivision went through our review process starting in late October. Great Lakes Engineering received engineering conformance on a letter dated April 12th, 2024 from our office. Went through a process of 4 reviews. There were comments on the driveway intersection that have been adequately addressed, in addition to water quality and detention, which were satisfied through a filter strip and a bioretention swale that was added during the design process. And again, they received their conformance on April 12th, 2024. So that's the extent of my comments on this.
Dan?
Yeah, I've looked this over. Soil support septic. I know there's 1 or 2 lots where drainage was questionable, but if you do an above ground system, like an elevated sand mound or an elevated presby or algae bed, that it wouldn't need drainage. So there would be a way to get a septic system on there that wouldn't, if they couldn't find a drain outlet for a subsurface. So Yeah, I don't have any further comments. Things seem good.
Kevin?
Yeah, see, it's relatively flat with a lot of tracy soils, which is positive for you guys as far as septic. I see site distant details there. I don't see a lot of elevations related to that. And that's usually our concern, but I don't think that's going to be a problem in this case. The tension is in the northeast corner of this.
There's a drainage easement in the northeast. The actual bioswale detention is located between, I think that's lot 3 and 2. It runs along the boundary. You can see a 30-foot easement on both sides of the property line.
It's between 3 and 2.
Right here, Kevin.
Well, they're on opposite sides of the projection of the driveway. So you're collecting the water there at the end of the T-turn around and moving the water in that direction.
Correct.
Okay. It's, as you said, more of a bioswale than detention. The detention is back in that northeast corner. And what's your outlet for that northeast corner?
It's just a overflow weir. There's infiltration, but for the most part, it's just an overflow weir.
And you're satisfied with the detail of that, David, or have you even seen it?
Yes.
Okay, I don't have any other questions.
Martin?
You had your vision clearance triangle on the, looks like the north side of your drive, but I didn't see it on the south side. I know it seems like it would intersect your conservation easement, just so you know. So that would require clearing in that area. This is heavily wooded.
Okay, I understand. Talking about the wetlands on the south side of the intersection?
So, your clearance triangle right here,
Yes.
you'd have to clear within your conservation.
Oh, I got you. Okay. What would be the procedure to begin? Is that going to require any kind of permits or anything?
I don't require a permit for clearing trees. I'm just not sure what's allowed in those conservation.
Exactly. Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll start bugging the correct people then for any type of appropriate steps.
And then a driveway seems, or the private roadway is going to be privately maintained. Did you do a sizing on that culvert?
The 60-inch?
Not the one crossing the road, the one crossing your driveway,
Is
the private roadway.
Yes, all proposed culverts were adequately sized using calculations.
Okay. Yeah, that's it for me.
Kelly?
We did issue a conformance letter, planning did issue a conformance letter on this. The only thing I did notice as I was sitting here is it is a beautifully wooded lot. So there are some tree preservation rules. It is highly recommended that you try to preserve as many trees on there as possible. You do have the conservation easements, which are awesome. Yeah, that would be my point.
Yeah, the idea is to keep as many trees as possible. Obviously, some clearing around the septic houses as well as grading is going to have to be done, but our priority is to maintain as much wooded area as possible.
Yeah, it does appear to be a pretty high quality forest area. As much as possible would be awesome.
Yeah, the lots are sized for as much area as possible to be conserved.
And that's all I have on that.
Christie?
I have none.
Monica? Okay.
I have a question about Sunnybrook has a pond at their northwest corner. And I don't recall which way that thing outletted. It was across your neighbor and their neighbor, the Snyders. Just need to make sure that if there is outlet in that, or outflow in that direction, that everything still can flow.
Okay.
And this course is through your conservation easement, but I'm just,
We'll take a look at it.
it heads toward a wetland, but I'm just speaking that, it just seems like years ago there were some issues there with the Snyders, because they had a driveway with a pipe under it. I don't recall what the specifics were, but that's just gonna refresh my memory here. But there is a pond right there near that road intersection that you just want to be aware of.
Okay.
Anybody else has any final comments? Okay. So today, if we wish, the board or the members wish, we can make a motion approval for a primary plat. I'd entertain such motion from
I'll make a
anybody.
motion that we approve this for primary plat.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Any further discussion? Being none. David?
Concur?
Dan?
Yeah.
Martin?
Aye.
Kevin?
Yes.
Kelly?
I'm not a voting member, I don't think.
Okay. And myself, yes. Okay, you have primary plat. Can't file secondary plat for at least 30 days. Got to be advertised, as you know.
One more time?
Can't file for a secondary plat for at least 30 days.
Okay.
Got the advertisement period and comment period, so
Perfectly fine.
if there's any changes, we need to discuss those, so.
Mm-hmm.
Make sure that you folks go through the ESC process and get contacted for a pre-construction meeting and whatnot.
All right. We'll do. Who's be the person to contact for that?
You could contact our office.
Okay.
Meredith Pori could help you with that application.
Okay. Thank you.
Formerly Meredith Phyllis.
Oh, yes.
Good luck.
Thank you. Have a good one.
Thanks for making a big detour around.
Yeah.
Don't cut the trees.
Make sure the utility people recompact it properly.
Any other things you guys want to discuss today? That's it? All right, we'll see you in the next meeting.
We have
Oh,
possibly something.
Yes, I'm trying to get use variance.
This is not the right meeting. You need to come to our office and discuss it. What use variance for?
He's not as an informal review yet.
Oh,
He
just,
just submitted it.
oh, okay, yeah. You just submitted your application. Okay, yeah. You're on.
He'll be on the next.
You're too soon.
Okay.
Get a feel of it, right?
Yeah.
well, you get to see what the meeting looks like when you come back next. Thank you.
Sir?